Welcome back to Status Report. This is the series where I take a game I'm currently let's playing and talk about some of the good and the bad stuff just to have it in one place instead of have it spread out against an entire fucking thing. So, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is probably one of the best Legend of Zelda games that's been made in like the post 3D era. I personally am less familiar with the series than most Nintendo fanboys are. I was a Mario guy, and when it comes to Legend of Zelda, I mainly played the Game Boy one, and then I actually jumped ahead to Twilight Princess and Wind Waker HD and Hyrule Warriors. I've always just kept an eye on it from afar, not really wanting to play the games myself back in the early 3D game days. Not because I didn't think it looked good, but more because it was kind of unappealing to me. I was a mascot platformer gamer first and foremost, and having to sit around reading all this shit, especially in a second language, was just not something I was interested in. Also, I didn't have a Nintendo 64. I had PlayStation and PlayStation 2, so I didn't really have a Nintendo between a Nintendo console between Super Nintendo and Nintendo Wii, so that definitely had something to do with it as well. So Breath of the Wild, I love it. I probably would have stopped the series if I didn't. However, that doesn't mean the game is perfect, and I will say that some of the 10 out of 10 scores this game has gotten is blown a little bit out of proportion, but it's definitely a great game. When I played Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, I found myself in a state of not being able to put it down. Like, I'll start a recording session, suddenly look at the clock and notice that 7 hours has passed and I've recorded 800 episodes. I recorded so much that in this series, the first time I remember since my first year recording games, that I actually ran out of disk space while recording just because I kept clicking enter and play for a new episode, for recording another episode. That hasn't happened to me in like 3-4 years, and that to me alone should be like a testament to how much I like the game. That said, the game has a problem that you also see in Bethesda games. The fact that I can pause the game at any time and merely eat food, while it has saved my ass many a time, is actually a bad thing. It's kind of like, oh, I'm about to actually be inconvenienced in this game. Let me press plus or start. Oh, there we go. Okay, now I'll just eat one of these 500 dishes I can cook up leisurely in the background and eat them. Now I have full health and I can kill the guy leisurely as I please. The same thing goes for enemy encounters overall. Like, as cool as it is to have all these cool weapons and shit to work with, and all these cool ways of thinking of trying to approach a problem, I find myself most of the time just brute forcing my way through it, switching weapons as they break, shooting arrows only when I really don't want to get close to them, and really only the biggest enemies like the stone thing and the big one-eyed Hinox really has me considering, okay, what can I do next? Which weapon can I use next? Another big problem with that is that it also kind of reveals that Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild really doesn't have a lot of enemy types, and especially not compared to any other Zelda games. Off the top of my head, I can think of the Stalfos, which is just a skeletized version of the other enemies in this game, and which can be killed in two hits if you manage to find their heads, or the Coplins or Moblins, which didn't used to be the same race or versions of the same race, but okay. And then you have the Lisselfosses, which are every fucking where. Like every time I turn a corner, I'll see a fucking Lisselfoss. And then there's the Choo-Choos, which are, I mean, it's Choo-Choos. They're slime. There's the Whisros, which are like actually the most challenging enemy in the game. More challenging than the boss fights. To be honest, I've had more issues dealing with Whisros than I've had with any of the blights in Ganon's things. Like, as of recording this, I have beaten the first two dungeons, and I hesitate to call them dungeons. And the blights really hasn't caused me that much trouble. Actually, the real issues I've had with either legendary beast has been the puzzles and me not really getting how to beat them. Next up is like, yeah, where are all the enemies? Where is the where's the Darknut? Where's the oh, I forgot to say, oh yeah, there's keys here, but like, if tell me of a video game that doesn't have one minor flying enemy, and I'd be really surprised. Outside of like Red Dead Redemption, which still has you shooting birds, even in the story missions. Like the keys are just stand-in for random flying enemy coming at you, and they're not especially interesting to fight either. I miss the enemy variety from Twilight Princess and Wind Waker, and that's despite the fact that a lot of time, especially in Wind Waker, you'd just be put in a room and there's the one Darknut you have to fight, and you'll just wait for the opening, wait for the button prompt, press the button prompt, and there goes his armor, and now you can just wail at him. Like, that's not good, but I prefer it over this where, oh, what is this over there? Oh, it's just another Darknut. Of course, there's the Lynels, but the Lynels are so few and far in between that I can't really, like, I think in all the time I've played the game so far, I think I've encountered 2 Lynels. And maybe the game would have been more interesting if the Lynels had been more numerous. As it is, they're just kind of around, and usually you don't even really encounter them in the overworld. It's kind of a missed opportunity. I feel like Ganon would have filled the world with monsters, and especially coming off of the other Zelda games, like, it's a very empty world, even when it comes to monsters, isn't it? Like, there's no Redeads. You'd think there'd be Redeads everywhere. Redeads is the Zelda version of zombies, and they're nowhere to be found. Just human Stalfosses, where the fuck are they? Beyond that, like, the dungeons, like, I will admit that a lot of the earlier Zelda games, like Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, the overworld was just a means to get to the next dungeon. Like, you'd do whatever you needed to do. Sometimes you needed to do a lot. Sometimes you didn't need to do anything. Like in Wind Waker, you're just sailing from place to place, and then interacting with the characters there and entering the dungeon. In Twilight Princess, there's a little bit more. The overworld is used a little bit more, but it's really not a lot. And I understand this game. The game was supposed to be the overworld, but with so long time, with as long time as they spend on it, I would have actually preferred if they had either made the overworld a little bit smaller, or just cut down some of the shrines and put some of the puzzles from the shrines into the divine beasts. I really wish the divine beasts were longer dungeons, longer, more traditional Zelda dungeons with more traditional issues and just with more interesting enemies inside of them. All the enemies inside the dungeons feels like variants on monsters I'll meet in the overworld, with the exception of the guardian robots, which I'll meet in the shrines. There's the slime thing where I just shoot the eye and it goes away. And of course, the bosses in the dungeon doesn't really have much of a personality or an identity. I remember being excited about, like, oh, this is a giant plant monster. Oh, this is a giant skull coming out of the fucking earth. Something about like how each dungeon had its own specific theme, and the monster somehow tied into that theme. I really miss that. I really miss like having the dungeons not just be variants on the same designs. I mean, at least the two Divine Beasts I have played looked almost identical interior wise. Like they had the same brown walls, the same like kind of like I know they're all supposed to have been made by the Sheikah, but I feel like that could have been like that more could have been done to like customize it. I feel like you could argue that, oh, the King of the Sora customized Divine Beast Varuta to look more Sora-like, so here's some of those weird lampposts that you see in the Sora area. Just something that makes the Divine Beast tie into the culture it's supposed to work for, other than it being a specific animals and it having a specific element, like something design-wise, visually, aesthetic-wise. And just bigger main dungeons. Have the dungeons like remove some of the shrines and just take some of the puzzles from the shrines, just slap them onto to the main dungeons or something like that. I really feel like that would have been a much better idea. Like beyond that, I really adore the bigger like commission to admission to storytelling that Breath of the Wild has. They really try to, albeit sparingly, give characters a personality. Like you don't get along with every guardian, which I had kind of feared. Like one of the guardians isn't actually that fond of you, and like you're actually kind of awkward around one of the other guardians, and like I feel like they could have done more with that. I feel like maybe they could have used the diaries, like had the diaries of each character in the game, because you do find diaries for different characters, and I feel like they should have given each guardian their own or champion, sorry, each champion their own diary, and maybe more flashback sequences. Zelda I've heard Zelda get a lot of fucking flack. Her voice actress, it is true, her voice actress isn't very good, but I do like that she's not actually like, it's not Twilight Princess Zelda. She's very awkward. She's not really interested in this sudden destiny she's had thrust upon her. She's really annoyed with Link taking so easily to the destiny stuff, and like them having that weird knighting ceremony was just such a good moment. But because it feels like the cycle of Ganon attacking Hyrule has been going on for so long that Hyrule just has developed this habit of going through the motions and just hoping it'll work out, and especially in Breath of the Wild, it's very apparent that they don't actually know what they're doing. They're just trying to survive, and I really wish they'd done more with that. I wish you'd maybe encounter the ghosts of the champions more, or the ghost of the king more. Maybe had more dialogue with Impa or something, which I realize like kind of takes away from like the open-ended like gameplay style of the game, because like the main appeal of this game is obviously supposed to be like, oh, you don't have to pay attention to the story, you just go out and have fun, and you know what, bless you if that's what you want, bless you. It's not what I want. I want a little bit more, and especially now that I've gotten a little bit of a taste of it. Like I've gotten to nibble at the spring of this idea of Zelda having a more in-depth story with voiced characters and shit. And then that happened in Hyrule Warriors too. Like I've gotten to nibble at this interpersonal character drama shit, and now just wanted to actually like be in Zelda properly. I want them to go all the way. I want them to stop with the no voice for Link bullshit, or at least want them to go back to making Link more expressive. Him just opening his eyes and looking surprised at everything he sees, like fucking Kermit the Frog, kind of takes me out of it. I feel like they could have made him more relatable. A lot of people say, oh, Zelda's Link is supposed to be like a self-insert, but I don't know. Like, if you want to play games where Link is a self-insert, play the other games. Let Nintendo experiment with this. I wish Nintendo had experimented a little bit more with this, actually giving him a character thing. They did it in Wind Waker 2, and I kind of wish they had gone the Wind Waker route of at least making Link super expressive. So even when he doesn't speak, which Wind Waker Link doesn't, he doesn't even speak muted in cutscenes like Twilight Princess Link does. He never ever speaks, but he's probably the most relatable Link in the entire series, and I really wish they had like remembered how expressive Wind Waker Link was when developing this game. Especially because Breath of the Wild Link is supposed to be more like interpersonal. Breath of the Wild Link actually hangs out with these people and has to be around these people, and I wish there had been like more of like his like, I just make him facepalm when Zelda is berating him or something like that. Just give him a little bit more of a personality. And voice him. Or obviously I still think they should voice him, but if they don't want to voice Link, like just at least make him more expressive, really. I'm thinking of more to say. I think that's most of it. I still really enjoy the game, and it's still just a game that I'll get immersed in and put down only put down after several hours. I just wanted, like, I remembered I had this thing called Status Report, and I really wanted to have everything in one place. I realized this Status Report has been very vloggy, but that was my original intent of it. So future status report videos will probably be more akin to like this off the cuff thing. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed listening to me ramble a little bit. This was a little bit more podcasty thing. I will continue playing the game, obviously. Like, the game's not even done yet, and I have the DLC for it, and I'm really enjoying, like, when the game clicks, it's just, ooh, it's good. I really like it. I just wish it had that little, extra, like, give me the enemy types back, give me the real dungeons back, keep the overworld as it is, keep the physics system, and keep the cutscenes. And I love that I have to look for the flashbacks. That's a cool system. Maybe don't do that again, because, like, every Link just happened to get amnesia. That would be dumb. It's a cool system. Don't bring that back just because story reasons. But definitely do voiced cutscenes. Do more of that. Please have Link interact more with people that isn't just Zelda and Ganon and Impa. Please keep doing this, where Link actually has a life outside of shit. Because, like, in all the other Zeldas, even Twilight Princess, once he actually goes out on the quest, the only people he hangs out with is Midna and Zelda. Like, he only comes back to people when he needs something from them after that. Anyway. that was Status Report for Breath of the Wild. On, I don't even know what date is it. 25th of February 2018. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you'll check the actual playthrough out if you haven't. And I'll see you guys around. Bye.